Right, so you're in the field, the bullets are flying, and suddenly that perfect plan you spent weeks crafting. Yeah, it's about as useful as a chocolate teapot.
Happens to the best of us.
Always.
Yeah.
And that's precisely what we're diving into today with Clausewitz. Specifically, his ideas on friction in warfare.
Ah, Clausewitz, the OG of military strategy. Even back in the 19th century, he just got it.
He really did. His book, On War, still totally relevant, by the way, gets into the nitty-gritty of why those best-laid plans go sideways.
And it's not always about the enemy's grand strategy, is it?
Right. Clausewitz says it's the little things, the unexpected hiccups, the stuff you just can't predict. He calls it friction.
He breaks it down into four main culprits, actually. Danger, exertion, lack of information, and the big one, the unexpected.
It's like trying to run through mud, isn't it? Every step is a struggle.
Exactly. And those four factors, they're the mud. They bog everything down no matter how good your strategy is.
Okay, so we've got danger. Pretty self-explanatory, especially in a war zone.
Right. Always present. But think about it. Even outside the immediate heat of battle, danger's lurking. Threat to supplies, disease, even just the mental strain of constant vigilance.
Then there's exertion. Not just physical, but mental too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Long marches, sleepless nights, making life or death decisions under pressure, it all takes a toll, wears you down.
And then we get to information, or rather, the lack of it.
The fog of war. Never knowing for sure what the enemy's up to, where your own guys are, even sometimes what's right in front of you.
And then, just to spice things up, there's the completely unexpected.
Because why not? Right.
Right? A key piece of equipment fails, the weather throws a curveball.
The enemy does something completely bonkers that you never anticipated.
So how on earth do you plan for that?
Well, you can't plan for it per se. That's the whole point of unexpected.
So are we just doomed to always be tripping over friction on the battlefield?
Not quite. See, Clausewitz, he wasn't just about pointing out problems. He offered solutions, too.
And that's where experience comes in.
Bingo. He uses this great analogy of the eye adjusting to darkness.
Go on.
Imagine you walk into a pitch-black room. At first, you can't see a thing. You bump into everything. But gradually, your eyes adjust and you start making out shapes.
Right.
It's the same with soldiers in battle. The more they experience, the more they start to see the battlefield differently.
The fog starts to clear a little.
Exactly. And they react quicker, make better decisions, even anticipate things that would completely blindsided them before.
So experience is like building up a tolerance to the chaos.
In a way, yeah. They've seen it, heard it, smelled it, felt it. The shock factor's gone.
Which is where the difference between, say, a green recruit and a seasoned veteran really comes in.
Oh, night and day. That veteran's been through the ringer. They know what to expect, at least to some degree.
They've developed that sixth sense almost.
And not just on an individual level either. Clausewitz argues that this applies to commanders too.
Meaning, the more experience a commander has, the better they'll be at handling the friction.
Right. They've made mistakes, learned from them, seen what works and what doesn't. Their judgment's been honed by fire.
Okay, that makes sense. But here's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
How do you gain experience without, actually being in a war?
Ah, now you're thinking like Clausewitz. He was way ahead of his time in that regard. He was a big proponent of realistic peacetime training.
Not just your standard March information kind of drills.
No way! He's talking about pushing soldiers to their absolute limits, making them think on their feet, simulating the chaos of battle as much as possible.
Kind of like those intense military simulations they have nowadays.
Exactly. Clausewitz knew that the closer you can make training feel to the real thing, the better prepared your troops will be.
So that even if they haven't faced a real enemy bullet, they've at least got a sense of what it might feel like.
Exactly. And they've practiced those split-second decisions when the pressure's on. It's about building those mental pathways in advance.
And Clausewitz had another intriguing point. It wasn't just about training your own troops, was it?
Right. He was a big believer in learning from others, especially those who'd recently seen combat.
You mean like embedding officers with foreign militaries?
Exactly. Sending your officers to learn from their experiences, their successes, and, importantly, their mistakes.
Bringing in that outside perspective.
Precisely. Because even if those foreign armies operate differently, the core principles of friction, they still apply.
It's like bringing in a guest lecturer. But instead of just theory, they're talking about real-life trenches, real-life bullets flying past their head.
Exactly. That firsthand experience, it's invaluable. It's a reality check.
It makes you wonder, though, how do we do that today? How do modern militaries bridge that gap between peacetime training and the brutal realities of war?
That's the question, isn't it? Are our simulations good enough? Are we really absorbing those hard-won lessons from veterans?
Big questions.
Big and important. And you know what? Those are questions Clausewitz forces us to ask, even centuries later.
And on that note,
Food for thought.